You know, I hate even to bring this up, but this is apparently still part of life in America, but here we are. The family of William Wallace Jr. claims that after the police responded twice to calls that William was having a mental health crisis, they asked 911 to send an ambulance to help him. But this is what they got. Please be warned, this is really disturbing and really angering. Take a look. You know, this is what I was talking about yesterday. You really want to help people of color? Let's try to get this to stop happening. You know, when people talk about taking money from the police, they're talking about taking money from the police to put towards mental health people who can help in situations like this so that people don't get shot. And I don't know what you think about this, Sarah, but I think that would really be a good beginning to get people, that get the police the help they need to stop shooting people. What do you think?
I absolutely agree that mental health professionals should be dispatched on these calls. And we also need to give police officers more tools and to be trained on those methods. Because right now, police officers are showing up and you've got a gun, you've got a baton and maybe a taser or pepper spray, and I don't know how to move forward with those options. Even the Wallace family's attorney said when you come to a scene where somebody is in a mental crisis and the only tool you have to deal with, it is a gun, where are the proper tools for the job? We aren't arming these police officers to handle and be mental health experts. And I think what has to happen is an additional, this is interesting though, Philadelphia actually passed a behavioral health person being dispatched. It just hadn't been implemented yet, which means that could have maybe changed the ending of this situation. There's got to be a federal commission of law enforcement experts, mental health experts that come together and get a plan in place that we can put across this country so this doesn't keep happening.
Yeah. What do you think, Sonny? Would that be helpful? Or what do you think can help the situation?
Well, it goes back, Whoopi, to the point that we've been talking about over and over again, the slogan, defund the police, that so many people seem to have a problem with. Defund the police means that you're going to reduce these bloated police budgets, quite frankly, and shift that money to social services. Those social services are education, health, and mental health services. And in this case, the family called not once but twice, and they asked for an ambulance. They didn't ask for police officers wielding guns to arrive. They asked for an ambulance, and they didn't get an ambulance. They didn't get EMTs. They got police officers with guns. And I've worked in law enforcement for a really long time, and you know that, Whoopi, and I've spoken to so many police officers. They don't want to respond to mental health crises because they're not equipped to do so. They want to respond to violent crime. They want to investigate violent crime. They want to help their communities. They don't want to respond to these situations because they're not equipped to do it. And if they continue to be forced to respond to these situations, this is what we are going to see. We are going to see more black and brown bodies, you know, shot in the street, and we're going to see more mothers like this mother who was there on the scene begging for them not to shoot her son. I've never seen a situation like this. My heart was broken. The mother is wailing after seeing her son shot in front of her. When she's begging them not to do that. This is something that we're seeing over and over and over again. It's not even about de-escalation at this point, because they can't de-escalate a situation like that, right? They just have to not respond to a situation like that.
And I think it can't be easy for the police either, Joy. I mean, to end up shooting someone, I feel like they would welcome more help for their jobs, to do their jobs in peace. What do you think?
Well, it's true. I mean, they need better training. I mean, I'm just going to pony off of what everybody has said already, you know, so I don't want to add to that. I will just say that a recent study from UPenn shows that black people are 3 times more likely to be killed by police than their white counterparts. So that is number one thing that has to be dealt with. And then just to give you an idea of how these things are dealt with in other countries, in Sweden, for example, they have a mental health ambulance to help people in a crisis. So that is exactly what they would have called. You know, the guy obviously was having some kind of a psychotic break and needs a mental health ambulance, and nurses and doctors are equipped to handle that. The UK has mental health street triage teams that provide on-the-spot care. Toronto has teams made up an officer and a nurse to respond to mental health crises, trained to help de-escalate situations. And as Sarah said, why is the gun the first thing that you do? There are tasers, there are straitjackets. Remember straitjackets? There are things to do that you can. And the guy has a gun. You go into a gunfight you go into a knife fight with a gun. That is really tragic. And it's
just to clarify, these two officers did not have tasers on them. They will now be implementing that all police officers have tasers. They didn't answer that, but I read they did not have tasers, and that they are now going to make sure that every officer has a taser and is trained on it in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And by
when
the way,
we come
they
back,
each
we'll
shot
talk
7
more.
times.
Well, they're not equipped. They're not.
Yeah.
They're not ready. They're not equipped. That's the problem.
Well, but again, if we talk about, when people talk about defunding the police, that's what they're talking about, taking some of that money and realigning it. And his name is Walter Wallace Jr. I think I said something different. Forgive me.